Thanks to Duelist Nexus, Rescue Ace is officially a tier 1 deck, and in this video we're going to talk about why that is. With only 2 new cards, the deck has gone from 0 to hero, but let's not waste any time, let's get straight into it. But of course, before we do that, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the video. Coming up in this replay, we are playing against the branded deck, and of course, as we all know, branded is super popular at the moment, with the Sanctified Dragon giving them crazy advantage, letting them gimmick puppet people. So I want to talk about this deck and see how we played against it. So the first thing is we are starting with what is basically the 1-card combo, although it's nice to have a card like Preventer in hand or a Turbulence. But if you start with Airlifter, you can search the emergency, special summon a Rescue Ace from the deck. You do have to tribute a Rescue Ace after that. That gives us Hydrant. Of course, you always want the Turbulence, set 4, and that should win you the game. But that said, let's continue the replay and I'll show you guys how the combo goes and how much advantage we truly get. Also, keep in mind, with the emergency card, you can actually dodge Imperm on your Turbulence if you chain it with an emergency. Now, this combo, we are doing the Mudragon tech that some people are doing, and Proxy F Magician is actually going up in price. It's a super rare, and obviously you can make the Mudragon. And then here we go, we get to set 4 cards. I did actually make a misplay here, a really bad misplay, but hopefully you understand the concept that if you turn Mudragon into a fire type, you cannot Imperm the Turbulence, and Turbulence is fine to set 4. Now, if you have Hydrant on the field, it has another effect where if a card was set by a Rescue Ace card, you can actually activate it the same turn. So then what you would do next is you would go ahead and activate the Alert. And this card, when you have Hydrant on the field, is a rota for any Rescue Ace card. If Hydrant is on the field, it's simply a grave to hand. So it can be belled, it can be ashed. It is quite awkward in that sense. So let's keep going ahead with the replay. And let's see how the opponent does break our board. He does have a super poly. We do get the great field spell, shuffle 4, draw 1. If we do draw an Airlifter, ideally that should be an impulse. The opponent has a crazy board here with a Garura, a Law of Darkness. It's pretty scary right now. We do chain the Mudragon, which is quite interesting. Keep that in mind when you do try this deck out and you do chain your Rescue Ace spells and traps. You want to make sure a Hydrant is on the field at all times, but they all get bonus effects. Continue the replay here. We do find the impulse and we do have a Hydrant on the field. They do dump the Brand Fusion Retribution combo. They search another super poly, which is actually quite crazy. He does do a fusion deployment for a Cartesia Branded Fusion. Now this looks pretty scary, and I do want to stop the Albion from triggering, but it does have a lot of ways to dodge it, so you'll see how that happens here. So just to make you aware, Extinguish can destroy a card on the field like a monster, and if Hydra is on the field, that card can activate effects for the rest of the turns. Imagine doing this on like a Soul Piercer or a Super Heavy Samurai, it would not be able to activate effects for the rest of the turn. But he does chain the Cartesia, which I find really annoying. So we do, I believe, try and, yep, there is the Contain. And against a lot of decks in the game right now where everything is a material, this card is super great. It's an Imperm, by the way, that's its classic effect. With Hydrant, it has the effect to basically contain the monster, let it stay on the field, and it can't be as material for anything. Which I think is pretty cool, because Cartesia is a material for Guigno. We bring out the Preventer, he goes into a Stapelia, Lord Blancs for 2. Wow, that is a disgusting top deck the opponent just did. Doesn't have his normal summon yet, and now he has a Quem setting up some crazy things here. If you didn't know, Preventer has a Book of Moon effect. If another Rescue Ace monster is on the field, putting the Quem face down so it cannot trigger its effects. Quem is one of the scariest cards in that deck, of course. We immediately change our things to fire, do the Book of Moon, and he does another super poly. This guy has a really insane hand for going second, so I'm really surprised we managed to break through this. But again, with that tier 1 boost from Duelist Nexus, I think this deck is capable of being anything right now in the game. A nice Ash Blossom, and Hydra gets to search Turbulence. We got the field spell, so let's banish first, then we can shuffle in cards from the graveyard or banish. We chain an emergency because Guigno is summoning something, triggering the Fire Engine, which when a opponent special summons a monster, you can bring out any low for low Rescue Ace from the deck. But remember, when Preventer goes to the graveyard, you can bring back a banished Rescue Ace monster except himself. Chaining Queritus gets everything to 0 attack. That's absolutely fine with us. We got a second Hydrant here. Of course, Airlifter searches a spell. There is our shuffle 4. There is our draw 1. And there is our set 4. I cannot believe a set 4 exists on a card. I'm really curious how this deck is going to make an impact to the TCG, because it is a different format. You know, when you do resolve that set 4, it's highly likely you win the game. Now we get to activate a card that will set the same turn things to Hydrant. And so just so you know as well, with the field spell, you only gain the attack boost if your opponent has a monster in the field, which I thought was pretty weird. But we do a nice Ultimate Slayer is a card I'm checking out in this deck profile. One of my favorite spell cards. And hopefully with Kashtira losing popularity, we may see more cards like Ultimate Slayer take effect. In this deck, you do actually auto-kit a lot with the access code talker, funny enough. And it's not a very creative way of winning the game, but that is what we have to do in this deck, as the extra deck is extremely generic. Let's move on to the second replay. We're playing against P.U.N.K Pride, which is also, I hope, getting support in Duelist Nexus. So first up, we have to Ash Blossom the Foxy Tune, It does go under the wagon, and we get to trigger the impulse, which if you didn't know, if you want to activate the monster effect on the field, the impulse, the intruder, and the airlifter, they can all special summon from anywhere. And with the impulse, it's from the deck, which is the best one. We do let the opponent resolve that. He does search a spell. Field spell is quite a nice search because he has low life points from the rollerballer going to Dragon Drive. It comes back to our turn now. We've just drawn a Pot of Prosperity. The opponent has an Ogre and a Droll and Lockbird. So I think this deck loses to Droll and Lockbird quite badly. But if you have a card like Emergency, it doesn't even matter. And I believe that's what happens in this one here. Yep, so we do a Prosperity for 6. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. I do find that even the extra deck is very generic and you really don't care what's in there. Maybe it's because I'm playing Ultimate Slayer. I find that it's actually quite hard to take out certain things. But moving on, what do we find? We find a triple tactics talent. He does a Droll and Lockbird. We get to take control of the Dragon Drive, do an emergency. With the Droll and Lockbird, I couldn't storm some of the Hydrant and search, so we attributed it with the resolution of the emergency spell. So let's continue. Yep, he does the Ghost Ogre, destroying it. We still get to set 4. We don't even have a Rescue Ace on the field, and because of that, the traps cannot be activated. Luckily, we have the Rescue spell, which is a monster born for our Rescue Ace monsters. If Hydra is on the field, it can steal an opponent's monster in a branded match. You can actually steal the form of Albaz, which I think is a really good disruption. So now that we don't have much to do, we are going to still try and get rid of the Dragon Drive by summoning the Heater Fire Charmer, bring out the Ash Blossom. Because we get the Hydra, our alert has the Rotor Search effect, getting us the Impulse. Although I don't know if the Impulse was the right card to search here. So we do have the Contain as well, sorry, the Extinguish. Let's continue the replay. Here's our draw phase. We do draw the goals of match with our main decking as well, by the way. He does a nice Ogre on the Hydrant. Emergency can actually set a Rescue Ace trap card, so if you're concerned about only running one of each one, can always set them with the Emergency, which you do play as a 3 of the opponent surrenders because we just go for the easy OTK. So time to move on to the deck profile, and I'll show you guys exactly what we're working with as the first version of Rescue Ace for the TCG after Duelist Nexus. For the deck profile, let's start off with Rescue Ace Hydrant as a 3 of. This is your main monster, boss monster, whatever you want to call it. You have to get Hydrant on the field ASAP. And then we have 2 of the Rescue Ace Fire Engine. When a Rescue Ace monster is summoned, this can summon itself from the hand. It's a good chain block for the Airlifter. And then we have 1 of the Fire Attacker. So if your opponent special summons a monster similar to Fire Engine, whereas in this case, it's a draw to discard 1. If you play hand traps, it is like to draw those. And for that reason, you could be tempted to run cards like Nibiru and Ghost Spell, so you have more ways to activate things. Unfortunately, I don't think Imperm suits this deck, because if you're going second, game 1, and you special monster because of Impulse or Airlifter or Fire Engine or Fire Attacker, then your Imperm is dead. But moving forward, we do have 2 Turbulence. He is the boss monster. He doesn't really do much other than setting 4. However, he does have one really cool effect, which I think a lot of people will be forgetting about. Basically, if another card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card, you can destroy a card in the field. It does target. Also, keep in mind, if your Rescue Ace monster has the same attack and defense, has the same attribute, and they're either machine or warriors, so there's really broken small bridges in this deck. You could even consider Kurikara and the main deck, Dogoran, the Fire Kaiju, and also Regulus as well. 3 Airlifter, which is the 1 card combo, so we're definitely going to maximize this card. 3 Impulse. So keep in mind, guys, this card can out any monster in the game. Puts a condition on the player to have that card not be able to activate and negate its effects. This card outs Expelliarmus Noir. Because it tags out when a monster effect is activated, you essentially trade 1 for 1 with like a Expelliarmus Noir, tag out into something. It's a really annoying thing that you can do with Impulse. A lot of lists only run 2 Preventer, but I think this card is insane. It basically changes the deck completely, and it makes it go from a really old school style control deck with only Turbulence as the boss monster to Preventer as well. This is a great card in the Kashtira matchup. Of course, Book of Mooning a Fenrir or their first summon, and it can special itself by banishing 1 Rescue Ace card from the grave. 3 Emergency. I absolutely love this card. I'm so glad we have this as support. This is a E-Telly for Rescue Ace. You can set the field spell with the Reinforce, by the way, so that's obviously really nice, and reason why we're running out 1 Alert, 1 Rescue, 1 Contain, 1 Extinguish. Because the Rescue Ace archetype is mostly known for its back row, but you can also recursion and have a good resource game. We're going to run each of these at 1. I could definitely see maybe 1 more Contain. I could even see Reinforce being taken out, but when you factor in it can set a spell from the graveyard like Emergency, and also keep in mind Extinguish can set a trap from the graveyard, and the traps are not once per turn. We play 1 for 1 to find the Hydrant, we play Rotor to find the Airlifter. Ultimate Slayer is a really genius card design in my opinion. It's like Dark Blue No More. It's potentially a power creep to Dark Blue No More, and it's really great into the branded matchup. When you factor in Prosperity, then the extra doesn't seem so free and I guess easy to build, and when you have Ultimate Slayer target, it does clash with it. So for that reason, I'm thinking about taking my Prosperity or Ultimate Slayer. And right now in the meta, Kashtira cannot play through Goza match. I believe Sanavra and Rika cannot play through this. So can't Dragon Link because they're dark and light. The list goes on. This card is actually really strong against most of the decks in the game. So if we can draw this, if we can resolve it game 1, we should win the game. The extra deck, again, is super generic. Nothing here that really screams out anything unique. In the Duel Commentary, you saw Mudragon Proxy F combo. I'm not sure, I'm not convinced completely yet. Right now, I'm just testing if I want to keep the Proxy F Mudragon combo or the Decode, because they both do the same thing where they protect Turbulence from being negated. We have Entis for the pop, Garura for the draw, which can also work with Proxy Magician, Meteorologic Aggregator. With Rescuers, we do have Semi going second options built into the engine, so this is another nice way to negate something else on the field. Omega's a good synchro target at the moment, although Malong is another good one. And then moving on to the side decks, we have to play Judgment because we have to respect Evenly Matched. In the Rescue Ace engine, there's no way to actually out back row, so unfortunately we do have to run a card like Cyclone, and then 3 Droll Lockbird for the meta, and then 3 Bell as well, again for Branded, Labyrinth. So I'm just adding in cards that don't clash with the deck like Fenrir or Imperm. And that's been the deck profile, guys. Let's move on to the 1 card combo that I want to show you guys with the Rescue Ace Airlifter. Let's get into it. Right, guys, so starting off here, we're going to start with the Rescue Ace Airlifter. This will always search us the emergency card. We're going to turn off Chain Off just so the CPU doesn't chain to our effects. Let's activate this. Let's summon the Hydrant. In this case, because we are considering a 1 card combo, let's go ahead and tribute the Airlifter. Now, because we don't have the Turbulence, that is the 1 card we have to search. Now we can specially by banishing 2 Rescue Ace cards from the graveyard. Again, emergency. You can match any Rescue Ace card for Turbulence, so even the spells count. I love that. And now we can do the set 4. We are going to choose to set the Alert. That's going to get us Preventer. We probably want to get the 2 trap cards. I think they're really powerful. And then the 4th card is either between Reinforce or the Emergency. It's entirely up to you guys what this could be. I do have the Rescue Ace hard drawn in my hand, so for that reason I'm going to stick with Emergency for now. And you will realize the more you play this deck, some of the spell traps may be taken out because you'll never pick them. So let's go ahead and search with the Alert. Again, this is all a 1 card combo. I guess we could just do the Preventer. We want the Book Immune effect live on the opponent's turn, so now we can banish the spell card that we actually used, summon the Preventer, and that is our 1 card combo. You can even end on an IP Masquerena, and remember, when Preventer goes to the graveyard, it will summon the Airlifter from the banish pile. When Airlifter is summoned, searches a spell like the field spell, and everything starts again because we shuffle 4, draw 1, and then we have cards in hand as well. So that is why this deck is potentially tier 1. We've used both of the new cards in Duelist Nexus, and I cannot wait to play this in real life. And that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.